This time on Shift Points, we wrap up what was left on this 66 Chevrolet truck and get it down the road for the first time. Well, we come this morning and we were planning to kind of make that sway bar work. Figuring out some way. We got that thing up in there and it just doesn't seem to fit. I don't know if it's wrong sway bar or if it's like a universal deal, but it just does not go. The one I had on my truck, man, we had it bolted up in an hour. No problem at all. This thing, it hits the steering box that we put on it, which is also a Performance Online piece, so that should all work together. But it doesn't seem to for some reason. So we're going to wait on Monday and give them a call, see what's going on. Either send that thing back or, I don't know, figure out something. But in its current state, it's definitely not going to work. So anyway, so throw that out. But this thing's got brand new shocks. It's got all the suspension work that's been done to it, all that stuff. This thing should still do really well, especially with that power steering and everything. So that should still be fine. So if we can't figure it out, you're down a sway bar, but hey, that's okay. It's still going to do what it needs to do. But so now we're going to just kind of go and tidy up some things. One being the glove box. So this is the glove box that came from Vintage Air. And when you put it in here, you can kind of see, I think I showed this at one point earlier. If you take this and put it in, get that out of my knee. Oh. If you take this and try and slide it into place, it just doesn't really work. It doesn't really fit. So what I'm going to do is I've marked some marks here and here to clearance these two pieces there. I'm going to come back like about an inch, let's say, because this bolts two bolts here, two screws here, two screws here. So I'm just going to give myself a little clearance so that this will actually go back in place. So I think if I can get about an inch, this should let this rotate back and in place where it needs to be, and that should take care of this. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that and see if I can get this thing in place, and that'll be one little thing that we've got left that we can knock off, that we can check off the list. All right, so this turned out honestly better than we expected. So I did have to trim for these tabs here, so I don't know if you can actually see that in there. This plastic piece goes in all the way around on this upper edge, and then it comes between this the upright on the lid and the actual dash itself. So we've got screws in there that has that plastic pinched. This is super solid, pushing on it pretty hard there. Now I think, and we're going to look at like the LMC catalog and see what's going on here, but this thing didn't latch even when it came here, and I want to say there must be something missing here, because you can see that that's going to stick way farther back than this metal here. And so when it goes in this first notch, it is holding, but then if you push it where it needs to go to actually fully close, it doesn't have anything to grab to. So yeah, so that's weird. But we're going to look in the catalog and see if there's something that's missing here, and if we can get it, we'll get it. If not, I mean, this is good enough to to run for now, but it would be nice to have it fixed better. But yeah, so little trim here, little trim there, and then kind of some took me and Dad both. This is actually part of the glove box, so this plastic piece slides in there on that, and then we just took that whole assembly and slid it in. This stuff is surprisingly flexible, limber, and kind of malleable. Very good. So you don't really have to worry about it, because this thing, it takes some tension. It was definitely in some tension to get everything in place like it needed to be. It didn't try and break or do anything crazy, so that's really good. That's nice that is that way. I'm sure they made it like that on purpose, but we got a glove box in place now. Well, got a few things taken care of today. First off, one thing that we were talked about, I don't think I actually have talked about it at all. So we've got the barb that comes out of the radiator that goes over to a puke tank. This thing did not have a puke tank in it. It had in this area, there was something that was kind of retroactively being used as a puke tank, but I think it was actually the windshield washer fluid reservoir. None of that stuff's been working or anything, so we're going to go ride this thing up to the Napa store, get some 5/16 hose for this, and then we put one of these plastic Dorman tanks on the firewall. These are just generic puke tanks you can order. If you type in like Dorman puke tank or something like that, they're just very generic tanks that you can use for this. They work really good. Like I said, we've used them on a handful of things. They've got 3 mounting holes and everything. You can cut the tabs off and, you know, lower that down if you need to or anything like that. Really usable. So we went ahead and got that mounted there just to get that there. So this has the ability to do everything it's supposed to do. Since we put that rear gear in, there is a bit of a break-in procedure with that. The first leg of that we're going to go ahead and handle right now, which is actually taking the truck, driving it up to Marseille, since we have to go to the Napa store anyway. We're going to take it up there, drive it up there, get some hose, bring it back, and then let that rear end completely cool down. After that, what's next? After
3 of those.
3 of those.
You get about 10 miles, gets it up to normal operating temperature, no real heavy loads, and then do that, let it completely cool off. We'll do that 3 passes. It generally takes, you can do it in a day, just make sure that it gets completely cool before you make the next pass, but that's the way I've been doing it. That's the way Richmond and Randy's Ring Opinion recommends initial break-in for a rear gear. A lot of people don't do it, but seems to do okay, and that's the way we've done it for years.
Yeah. So we'll do that. We'll go ahead and take care of that. I did go ahead. We put some additive in the rear end for that also. So that's all got put in place. Truck's on the ground. It's not really super hot out, so we won't have to test out the air conditioner, but we're going to as we go down through there. So we'll check and make sure all that's still good. If everything's good, it shouldn't leak down or anything. It should stay plenty cold and all that. So I think we have everything. We'll do a quick double check, make sure everything's good before we leave, but then we'll get the air cleaner on it. I haven't done that yet. So go ahead and do that, and we'll make a pass in it, get it heated up, and bring it in here and just let it cool back down. So I think we'll get 1 today, and then we'll try and do probably the other 2 tomorrow at some point. Drive it to lunch or whatever. So we'll see you guys in a minute.
Let's just see what this gear is going to be like.
Yeah, me too. One thing I didn't mention, I don't think I've mentioned about this truck, it is a 3 on the tree truck, so that's pretty cool. It's interesting to me because this is the first thing that I ever got to drive with a 3 on the tree, which I think is pretty cool. So we'll go ahead and get this thing pulled out. So far the rear gear is definitely a good thing. Air conditioner is an ice box. It'll absolutely freeze you to death. I think I was talking about it earlier, but you can see that AC, it turns blue. I get that, yeah. So you can see when the AC's on, it turns blue. If you turn this knob down some, it goes off. But we were talking about it's. No wonder he wanted it changed. It's definitely not geared anywhere near too high, even with that 308 in it. It definitely runs.
Freed it up.
Yeah, it freed it up a bunch. Yeah, it's a lot better.
Power steering's wonderful. Power steering's great.
Really good?
Oh yeah.
Good.
Get straight to the wheel though.
Oh, okay.
Just on the steering wheel and stuff.
Yeah, well, part of it.
Is that heat?
That thing's already starting to heat up, yeah.
Get your speed limiter on your phone.
Yeah.
Check it. I think we're way off.
I bet. my phone that uses GPS location somewhere. Woo. Heater will run you out of here too.
Yep.
Dang.
I think it's you've done enough, man. Something different. Turn the fan on, see what the fan does.
$50.
42 is 50.
42 is 50. Okay. Door seals do good.
Yeah, I got it done.
Door seals do good. Another thing that I didn't talk about that we did to this truck before we ever started doing YouTube videos is we actually brought in a brand new fuel tank. The fuel tank that was in this thing was completely rusted out on the inside. The outside looked amazing. We thought we were, you know, in the clear, so we went ahead and put a new tank in. It's got a new sending unit. It's got a new everything. So it's good. It's grounded and everything here, and then the wire that runs over there is going over to the speedometer, or to the gauge cluster, I mean. But yeah, so this is another thing that we did to this truck. And I said it before, I'll say it again, something about cars always look better at a gas station, which is good because that's where they live their life. The other thing I will say is with the weathering stripping and everything sealed up, this thing is like a new truck. It is amazingly quiet in here. Told you it was one of the cheapest ways to make comfort better, and I would definitely agree with that still wholeheartedly. Not the easiest thing to do, but definitely worth it because it made a huge difference in this thing.
Oh, there's no free travel. Power steering is excellent so far.
You'll have to make sure those fittings aren't leaking or anything when we get home, but yeah, so far it seems to be a completely different truck. Yeah.
This is the slow box. This is not the
no. Yeah, this is
box.
yeah. We just got this.
It's not twitchy. It's
just right.
Excellent.
Yeah, I'd say it fits this truck pretty good.
Oh, we missed the center of the steering.
Yeah, we'll have to swap. We'll have to turn the steering wheel a little bit, but what do you do? Sue us. Okay, so we're kind of finishing up the last little odds and ends on this truck. We got the mirror put on the driver's side. We're gonna put some different bolts in it. We got some flatheads in here right now, but they just really don't seat very good, so we're going to get some button head screws put on that. But in general, looks pretty good. You can see out of it really well. What do we got left here? Dad went ahead and put this back in place. I told you guys this was the windshield washer fluid reservoir. So that's back in place. We fixed this bracket. It was actually broken, so that's all back in a good spot where it needs to be. Something I realized going back and watching some of the videos, I realized I never actually showed. This is the red shrink wrap we put on these battery cables. We put the red on the positive on this side and on the positive of the side that's over at the starter as well. So that's all wrapped up. We mounted the puke tank like you saw. We run the hose around through here and across and over. So that's all working as it's supposed to. That's actually it's pulling that in, you know, and pushing it out as it heats up. So that's all good. What else, Daddy? What else do we have done on this thing? I've got to put the lenses in it. I've got some replacement lenses to put in the brake for the brake lights and everything. That's the big stuff, really, honestly. So let me get those lenses put in place, and I'll show you guys the new ones of those. And this thing's just about done. It's about ready to go back to him, let him drive it. You saw us driving it yesterday, and it's like a different truck with that gear, the power steering. You could take it through the curves and everything. And even without the sway bar that we ended up not being able to put on it, truck sets super flat and does really good. So yeah, we're really happy with it. So we're gonna finish up putting this stuff up, and yeah, we'll go from there. I didn't really think it was needed, honestly, after like looking at these lenses, but then once we got them in place, it made a big difference. These look really good. They went in really easily. And so that's always a good thing if you can do that. So let's close this hood. You can kind of see what they look like there. And I'm sure once they're lit up, it's going to look even better. Same thing for the brake light lenses. They really kind of cleaned up a whole lot, and I think once these get, you know, some light in them, of course, they're going to look really good too. So this is, unless there's something that we've forgotten when we talked to Eddie, this thing's wrapped up and ready to go. So that's excellent. You know, I'm excited for him to pick it up. Like I said, I think it's going to make I think he's not even going to believe what a difference it's made in this truck with just what we've done. So that's a good thing. Hopefully he's happy. We'll show you guys when he picks it up and drives away with it. But yeah, that's awesome. Good. Another one down. Looks good. We're all happy. One thing that kind of fought me, and I didn't talk about it in the video, and I considered not talking about it because it was just so odd. I didn't think, but decided go ahead and show it. And it's this upright bar in this channel here. This thing was fighting me every time I tried and roll the window up. Everything else was sealed up good. All the pieces were in place how they needed to be. But this upright bar just fought me, and honestly, it's drove me crazy to the point where I've left it set for a while now because I didn't know what to do. And today we took and got this glass, and actually I was able to rotate it out of that channel and get it out. And we realized that the bottom corner of the channel that clamps and holds the glass in place, for some reason, was kind of kicked out a little. So the piece of metal was kicked out, and when it was trying to roll up, that piece was catching in this channel and it was stopping the window from rolling up. So once we pulled that out, got it mashed flat, took a sanding wheel and just, you know, beveled it a little, just got that sharp edge took off of it, and now it rolls up and down just like it should. I've got the weather strip adhesive in here curing up really well. I want this window to hold everything in place so it keeps pressure on it real good and gets this locked in. So that's all done too. I know we talked about having the weather stripping all done, but honestly that part right there had been a little bit of a hang up on everything else. But yeah, but now this window goes up and down really well. It's sealed up so good. When we're driving it, man, it's so quiet, it's so nice. It looks really good. The other thing we did, we got the door panels back on, so that's all in. Got the door handles and the window cranks on. We got to pick up some of this leftover stuff in here, but other than that, everything is good. We did miss center on the steering wheel a little, so we pulled the steering wheel the other night and just rotated it one notch and got it put in place so it's straight up and down going down the road now. But yeah, super happy. But that was a bit of a pain. So just kind of keep it in mind if you're working on one of these, there's a possibility of that kind of happening. Pull into the Napa store yesterday, and I got to stop. We had to stop and turn. And I was sitting there and I was like, "Is first up or down?" And I was like, "It's down."
You'll know it.
Oh, I know. So one thing that we were going to do before we took this back, we called Eddie. He's going to come get this truck later this week. But when we took the West Coast mirrors off the side of this thing, and I showed you guys this at one point, these holes were left here and here. So basically what we did, we took and sanded this down. You can see truck has a pretty significant amount of Bondo here, but we notched this out here, got that sanded off on both sides. And what we're going to do is, this is new to me, I didn't realize a weld won't stick to copper. So Dad has a piece of copper, it's about 6-8 inches long. So I'm going to take a pair of welding gloves, put in here, and hold that piece of copper back here, and he's going to weld and fill these holes up, and that'll give it some backing. So I'll go here, do this side, and then I'll have to put it through the door panel, which I've already got the door panels back off, and put that in here, and then he's going to fill these holes. So then if he does decide to get this truck painted or whatever, the body man can just knock that off and keep doing what he was doing. So that's what we're going to do now. That'll basically be the last thing on this truck. Alright, wasn't so bad, to be honest. I'll show you this side. So this side is kind of what we got welded up. Like I said, I put that piece of copper back here behind this, held it against it to give it somewhere for that weld to kind of build up on. So we got that there, and then this side down here, of course, with the heat and everything, it's going to bubble the paint, but, you know, with what sounds like he's planning to do, he's going to get somebody to fix the paint on this thing anyway. So it's really the only option. And I'll show you the other side over here. This side, we went ahead and took a sander, just kind of hit those, got those cleaned up, got them pretty flat on both sides here, or the top and the bottom. So we're going to do that to the other side, and then later this week, I think Eddie's going to come get this thing. So hopefully he's as happy with it as we are when we drove it. You guys saw that. So thanks everyone for watching, and we'll see you next time. If you want to, follow us on social media. We've got Facebook and Instagram. And to make sure to hit that subscribe button that pops up right in the middle of the screen when you get done talking here. You guys have a good one. Thanks for joining.